They began to grow organically and naturally, without hype, without pressure, without, a lot of song and dance. But it grew because people aligned themselves with our heart. We used to always say, we want your heart. Because if we get your heart, your brain will come along willingly. That's where we are today still. We want your heart. Because we know from experience if we get your heart, your brain, and the rest of you will come along willingly. I can remember a time when we were first getting started. I was scheduled to do our first ever business meeting in Sarasota, Florida. And I'd been invited to go. A big group was kind of forming there, and they invited me to come and do the business presentation for them. And so I was scheduled to fly into Tampa and drive to Sarasota. And I was flying Delta. Any Delta employees in the room? I learned that day what Delta stands for. Doesn't ever leave the airport. The flight was delayed by 2 or 3 hours, and the meeting started at 7 o'clock, and I did not land in Tampa until 9 or 9:30. And had it's about an hour drive or something from Tampa to Sarasota, and I just did my jeans and a t-shirt, so I needed to check in and change my clothes so it was after 10. Over 3 hours late by the time I got into the meeting room. Now, from your experience, if you're 3 hours late to a business briefing, how many people would be lingering around in the room, do you think? I mean, probably the janitors would be sweeping it out. The room, I opened up the back of the room in the back of the door in the back of the room, and it was just like it is here, packed. With people standing up against the wall on all 3 sides, and even crowding to the stage. And you know what would happen? Someone had just kind of taken charge and said, let's share our experiences with Tanisha Noe. And so for over 3 hours, testimonial after testimonial after testimonial after testimonial, for over 3 hours. And I came into the back when this was going on, and it was, the feeling in that room was, if I was holding a bare light bulb, it would have been illuminated. The electricity was so thick. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I should just kind of back out of the room and go on my way, because more good is being done in that room right now than I could ever have. Well, they saw me and grabbed me, and I did the presentation, and we stayed after for a business briefing, and it was nearly 1 a.m. before we finished with the main group, and many lingered after that. People were hungry and thirsty for what we had. This was Morinda, 1996, 1997, 1998, 1999, and so forth. This is what we experienced. Another thing that happened in those days was, as inevitably happens, people who lived in other countries began to hear about what we were doing. We started smuggling our product across the Canadian border. Late 1996. In fact, I think there was a drop-off point in Plattsburgh, New York. And people would drive their cars south, across the border. We had a real operation going at one time. I'm not sure it could go on right now with the border being tightened up, but it was pretty elaborate, pretty cool. He would load up the product in the trunk of their car and their station wagon or whatever and drive it across the border, and then they'd have the dispersal point on the other side of the border. And this went on for quite a long time until we finally got the product registered and the business registered, and our business took off in Canada. And then someone in Sweden found out about what we were doing. Pretty soon we were bootlegging product into Sweden. And country after country after country